Hey guys, welcome to another questions and answers. I'm Club Battleblood, and so continuing from last time, I've had a great Thanksgiving. Hung out with some family, had fun with my two baby cousins, and that was pretty much it. Didn't really do or go anywhere that significant. I know today they released something on MMORPG.com. It's a Wizard101 giveaway. They give out these keys, and I think that about around this time, let me check on this at the time of creating this recording, which is about an hour or two before that I really get to release the video, we're down to about 5,000 keys left on MMORPG.com. So check that out. Look for anything related to Wizard101. Make sure you have an account there, so you have to sign up for that, and you'll get this key. This key can include 2 items of, they say there are about 20 different random items. What I got in mine was a Wyvern's Horde pack, which didn't really contain anything that great, but that's just my luck anyways. And a Crocotopian hammock, which normally you would get from a code from Beckett's magazine, I believe. I know the Friendly Necromancer got one before it was released and this item is pretty darn cool. It's I don't think you can find it in the bazaar if you looked. I think it is no auction. It's a promo item, so definitely awesome catch that I got from that. Anyways, we're off to questions now. I've got a whole bunch to share with you, and that there's actually one that will branch into a video because it's a little harder to explain, but I'll do my best here. First person is zachshock, who asks, I got the Crown's pet that gives Sprightly, which I got, but my friend bought his pet. The only thing is that his gave him a life blade. Why is that? Well, to kind of visualize this and to use a real example, if you look at a pair of twin humans, they may look alike, but they're not necessarily the same. They have different personalities, they have different hobbies, different likes and dislikes. And so this is the same case with pets. So even if you two bought your cards from the exact same store and got the exact same pet, it technically isn't. They have different manifestations. So, and this can only be affected, by its unique code. So this technically, in a way, when Wizard101 said that we would have millions of unique pets, this is kind of that's kind of the explanation behind that, because you can have tens of thousands of different combinations of how your pet will manifest its 8 abilities when it hits epic. So, but that kind of follows up to how the Pet Gnome project works. Thankfully, because not all pets are the same, we're able to find out through collaboration with the community what the exact 20 talents are. These talents will always show up in the same slots. Wherever his life blade showed up, that's the same slot on your pet, if you were to manifest it. So I would have them train it up to adult and then hatch it with your pet. Your pet is the same as his, but not the same manifestations, obviously. But at least you'll give him a bigger chance of getting Sprightly, and he might give you a bigger chance of getting Lifeblade on the next pet that comes out. So hatch those 2 pets together if he doesn't have Sprightly by adult. Because you do need you need your pets to be at least adult to hatch them together. Wait until that you can hatch those 2 together, and then do so. That way he doesn't have to spend all those snacks and all that time trying to, if all he wants is Sprightly, he doesn't have to waste all his time trying to train one pet up to epic, and eventually become disappointed. Sometimes Sprightly doesn't show up at all, from baby to epic, and that's really disappointing. That's a lot of resources wasted. So go ahead and just wait for him to just keep raising any pets that you hatch together up to adult. If it doesn't have Sprightly by then, rehatch that. And method, I would say, is that Zach, you use your pet with the Sprightly on it, and if he wants that Sprightly, just keep using that same pet with the Sprightly on it. Whatever pets you get out of the hatch, you don't necessarily have to raise unless you want to. But I would say if you want to hold on to your If you want to hold on to your snacks and not waste them, go ahead and, because all you need is Sprightly, then just keep the very first pet that you have. That'll do for you. So, so hopefully for your friend, he gets it by adult, and if not, you're going to have to spend some gold, hatch together, raise it. Just be patient with it. You are going to have a lot of disappointments, but that's pretty much pet hatching. That's a way to kind of customize your own gear without having to spend too many crowns. I mean, it's all gold. Just hatch, and again, be patient, and hopefully it works out for you guys. Let me know if it does. Next question is from Victor Jose 2195. What does Mend do? It's a new Astro spell, and do you think the new Pierce spell could lower resist? Would be better than Gargantuan or Colossal? Well, I'm gonna answer that question about armor piercing it because with another person's question, because they asked the same thing, but for Mend. And what it does is it gives you a 20% outgoing heal boost. So any heal that this person with Mend around them will get an extra 20% heal. So that's all it really is. It doesn't, as I assumed from last time, regenerate health over time. I was hoping, but I think 20% of your own health being regenerated every turn is a little too much, especially for ice wizards. I mean, if you take 20% of 4,000, you can see how imbalanced that can get. MrJmstyles asks, is your mouse really shaky, or do you just move a lot? Very few people have noticed that, but it's actually an important observation, and I'm glad that you pointed that out. I used to game professionally, and so one of the kind of warm-ups that you have to do for reaction-based games is you have to keep your blood flow going. You have to keep your hands and your fingers always moving, so then blood is constantly needed. That way your hand doesn't ever freeze up, it doesn't slow down and whatnot. I just used to do a lot of that, and so this is kind of a habit of mine that I haven't let go, and I don't think I ever would. Because it's nice to be able to react fast, able to think faster if you get your blood going. And then sometimes, and you'll notice this in the videos, I will circle some of the characters or zigzag back and forth, and that's usually when I'm trying to think and contemplate what's going on, trying to plan out my moves, and usually when I want to keep my focus on, we have to do something to this person, or we have to avoid something from this person. And so I just do that out of habit, really, and then just a reflex, and also for my own visual purposes, just so then I don't get lost in trying to formulate different strategies. Or it's one huge mental flow chart when it comes to PvP. And as far as keeping your blood going and whatnot, you also, and I want to stress this to a lot of gamers, that working out and exercise is pretty important if you want to critically think. So that's that. So if you want to get into like really advanced PvP and whatnot, make sure that you're not just sitting around all the time. Make sure you're physically fit and you're doing something off to the side. So if you happen to, drive to work, maybe park a little bit further from work and start taking a few walking trips there, or same with school. Instead of relying on just the wheels and the elevators and whatnot, get some extra movement in there, and that'll help keep yourself healthy pretty much. And that's always important for critical thinking and making fast decisions. All right, next question. Can you tell me where you get your rebirths? From Kilowith7564. Okay, well, there are a couple of ways that you can get the rebirth cards. One is the bazaar. Sometimes they will be available in the Wyverns or the Dragon Hordes packs. So that's another source. And sometimes people don't want them for some reason, so they happen to sell it. Probably because they don't have a mastery amulet and they only do PvE. So sometimes you can find some in the bazaar. There's also the recipe from Celestia. You can find this in the Crustacean Empire. It's over to the right once you enter that area, and you should find the recipe vendor. That's so we craft our rebirth. Sometimes Zephyria drops them. They're now dropping rank 8 spells, so I'm pretty sure some rebirths will happen to drop here and there from a monster or a boss, and also from pet feeding. Now, to find a really useful list, and this might sound a little biased because I work on it, but I haven't seen anything that really, overcomes, or I haven't seen another great source of information for what pet feeds give what, but it seems like it's not entirely random. It seems that there's actually a set loot table for pet feeding. And by pet feeding, I don't mean the ones where you have to go into a mini game. I mean the items that you feed to your pets from your backpack. So go visit this URL. It's http://tinyurl.com/pet feeding list. This basically goes over what possible loot items will you get, whether it's experience, treasure cards, reagents, equipment items even sometimes. And just all you have to do is hit Control F, type in Rebirth, and you can see your different options. Like, what do I need to feed my pet for a chance at these? There's no guarantee whether you'll get the experience and or the gold and all those other fancy items. But there's a chance that it helps you narrow down to what you needed to feed your pets on that. So hopefully that helps out. Let me know if you find anything else or different. Now Antonio ThunderHunter, he didn't write me a comment, but he wrote me this long email that was really great, really liked it, but I'm just going to shorten it for this case to his 4 questions, which is, what do you think of the Maycast Unicorn talent? Is TPC going to use the Maycast Unicorn talent in the future? Why or why not? What plants do you and other members of TPC use for treasure cards? And what plants would you recommend for PvP in general? Well, since a lot of people have been hatching the Maycast Unicorn talent for their pets in 4v4 especially, we decided to do it as well. Now the thing is, we don't really enjoy it. We don't like seeing the Maycast Unicorn even though we do have it. The reason why we do have it is to make sure, our pets are at least on par with other people's pets. Just not having a sprightly unicorn pet would make us much more disadvantageous compared to a team that does have those 2 types of healing talents. So we decided to include it into our pets, but we weren't really enthusiastic about it. So yeah, we are going to use that. I mean, it's an extra buff against high damage dealers, especially Tempest spammers. And nowadays, because you cannot change your gear before, or you can't even adjust your cards, I guess, before the battle starts, like during the countdown, I think just having the Maycast Unicorn would be a safe bet to have. I'm pretty sure it'll change in the future, but for now, at least with what's going on in PvP, I think Unicorn is important, because you don't know what school you're up to, and you don't want to go down in just a single hit. So if you happen to have some tanks in your team, or if you happen to be a tank yourself, you might need some extra healing other than just sprightly itself. So I would say it's an important investment, especially for team PvP. We're hoping that KI brings out something though that would nullify Unicorn, hopefully. And especially with armor piercing, I think it's much more important now to have Unicorn, just in case. Now as for plants, we do plant a variety of crops. We have stinkweed, couch potatoes, silver trumpet vines, maelstrom, snapdragons. Mainly for the reagents. I know stinkweed gives poison, but they also provide a lot of smokescreen. And that's usually what we plant them for. Couch potatoes will give those astral cards like Conviction, Amplify, Infallible, and a lot of Mega Snacks at Elder, obviously. And Silver Trumpet Vines give Earthquake, some myth cards in their Minotaur, stuns, and also some reagents, and they also duplicate themselves. So we kind of use Silver Trumpet Vines as a pet feeding tool as well, and Maelstrom Snapdragons for reagents. Now we also plant Evil Magma Peas just for the Mega Snacks and reagents, and Deadly Elephant Ears. But those aren't really PvP based plants right there, but we tend to use those because it does help with pet training and pet feeding, which helps us, customize our equipment a lot faster than normal. So those are some plants to look over, and good luck in your endeavors with Maycast Unicorn. Alright, Buenavente asks, and this is going to be combined with the other questions about armor pierce, what is it? Does it go through your resist or through your shields? So give me about hopefully 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes, I don't know, to explain this, maybe shorter. You have to think of armor piercing as a frontal resist reducer. Now that's kind of a mouthful right there, but don't think of armor piercing as a way to increase damage, because if you use armor piercing versus something that does not have resist against your attack, it's not going to boost it. It's really as if you hit without a buff on it. So let's say a Stormlord with 620, or let's say that a wand with 120 damage is launched at someone, and there's armor piercing, the armor piercing bubble or infallible on the wand user. Let's say the target doesn't have any resist to that wand. Well, they're only going to get 120. You know, it's much better if that person had used Amplify, for example, to get an extra 15% damage, or some other card, you know, some blades at least. So having 0% resistance against a piercer is pretty much redundant for that armor piercer. The point of armor piercing is to decrease any resistance. So let's say that, for example, someone has a tower shield up. Well, I don't want them resisting 50% of my attack. I want them to resist, well, just 30%. I can do that with the 20% armor piercing. That's all that does. But for those of you wondering, oh wow, so he gets to pierce, you know, 20% of my shield and then 20% of my resist? No. And that's the good news. And I actually found out about this today, which is another reason for why this video is a little bit delayed. But that's great, because we found out something new. And I think this would be a new trend for PvP, especially when the type of new trend that's going on is that a lot of people are using infallibles and or armor piercing gear and or, you know, armor piercing cards. But there is a counter to this, and there's a system to it that makes it somewhat balanced. Now, there are three types of layers to resistance. On the inside, you have gear and pet resistance. I call this equipment resistance. In the middle, we have ward resistance, or what I call the shield resistance. This accounts for, you know, tower shields, glacial shields, all those different wards that you cast, including absorb armor. And then on the very outside, we have something called astral resist, or star magic, which is basically the only one that we have is fortify. Armor piercing only works on the outmost item, on the outside item. So think of this as like a babushka doll, you know, that type of doll where you, from Russia, where you open it up, you take the top half off and you find another doll inside. You take that half off, you find another doll inside. That's basically what resistance is like. It has 3 different types of layers. Armor piercing only affects the outside layer and is ignored by the rest of it inside. So what that means is, let's say that you have just your pet and equipment, okay, and that piercing is going to apply to this. Let's say you have 50% equipment resistance and no wards, no astral magic. Piercing is going to reduce your armor by 20%, meaning you're only going to resist 30% of any damage being thrown at you. Now, let's say that you put a shield in front of yourself with the same equipment on. Piercing is only going to apply to that shield, and then it'll be reduced normally against your gear. There's no extra piercing on the second layer, that is. So, and again, order matters. So if you happen to put up a tower shield and then a legion shield, the legion shield will get pierced, and then your tower shield will reduce whatever damage is left over normally. If you have your tower shield in front and then a legion shield behind that, if the tower gets pierced, then the legion will be the one that resists whatever damage is coming in. So, as a tip, I would say put your strongest shield on first against an armor piercer, and then put weaker shield on the outside. That way, the pierce is not applied to your biggest resist, which means you have a bigger proportion unresisted. But instead, let's say that 10%, you have a 10% shield on the outside, and you're going to resist some damage. Well, only 10% is going to get pierced. That's fine. The rest of that damage that gets pumped through will be resisted and reduced normally. Therefore, if you have Fortify up, okay, Fortify is always out. If you look at it physically, Fortify is always on the outside of your shields and of your gear. It's protecting everything. Then anytime any piercing attack comes in, it will be reduced and nullified by the Fortify. Simplistically put, the outmost layer is the one that will get pierced. Everything else on the inside will resist any damage that gets through. So that's kind of cool. And again, try to provide a link here whenever it's ready, and it'll take you to that video when it's up. So I've got to work on that eventually. But hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more that, yeah, armor piercing doesn't pierce every single armor. It pierces the outmost layer. And again, the layers in order from inside to outside are pet and your gear. Then the second layer is wards or shields. And the third layer is the astro magic. So keep that in mind. Hopefully that helps you out in PvP a lot more. So thanks for the question. Great stuff. Glad you got me checking that out. Next question is from Christopher Legendstone. Okay, I was wondering what video editor and recorder do you use? And does it cost anything? If so, how much? Well, as a starving college student that sometimes has to resort to crunching on, dry ramen, I really don't have a huge budget for media tools. So whatever I use is technically kind of free. Whether I download it or it's been a trial or I've managed to find someone to help get me a key for it. I mean, I'm pretty much using a lot of stuff that anyone can use. For example, I record with Xfire. It's a great client. It's very advanced though compared to, for example, Camtasia or Hypercam or whatever other recorders there are out there. Xfire actually hooks up to your game and it records the smallest details, which is why most of the file sizes are huge when they come out. And I always have to compress them. But basically, they don't just record what's on your screen, they record what's going on in the game. That's why most of the quality that I have is pretty darn good compared to, like, say, Hypercam. Because it's not just recording what I'm seeing, it's recording, the game models kind of, it's recording the effects. And so I've noticed, like, when I speed it up, it seems very, very smooth as opposed to rigid and shaky, as with most videos sped up when they're recorded with something else. So I use Xfire, and that's completely free, but it does take some time to get to learn and to get used to. But let me say that it's worth it. It's not too much of a hassle once you get used to it, obviously. And then I use a video converter called Prism. I use Windows Live Movie Maker to set it all up, set up all the scenes and the fonts and whatnot. PowerPoint to help if I need to, like, create something or make something 2D into 3D, like the font or graphics. And then GIMP if I need to go into further photo enhancing. So a lot of those are just a lot of them are free. But yeah, with Xfire and GIMP and Windows Live's Movie Maker, those are all free. Next question is from Magic Chain 12. What does AOE stand for? Well, AOE is a gamer acronym that stands for Area of Effect. And in most games this refers to the characteristic where a spell or an ability or a skill provides something called splash damage, meaning you might be targeting one creature with, for example, Frost Beetle, but with the Blizzard, you're hitting multiple targets. And in the past, Wizard101 required you to select a target with your AoE spell. But that's not the case anymore. It's a little bit easier, so you don't really, a lot of people kind of get that area attack mixed up with a global, which I'll explain a little bit more later on why I call this AoE versus global. Yeah, in some games they're called splash damage or area of effect, and basically when you're not targeting a single unit, you're actually targeting multiple units in an area. That's why they call it, the area of effect of what your spell is going to be landing. And so yeah, I use AoE as an acronym or short for the raw spells: Blizzard, Sandstorm, Meteor, etc., Tempest. Now, as far as global, when someone says global, for me, I think of Wildfire, Balefrost, Doom and Gloom. I consider these global because it affects and helps and or hurts everyone involved. Whereas, a Rebirth or a Blizzard would only hit specific units, whether they're allies or enemies. And because a certain spell distinguishes between the two, I don't think it's entirely global. I think it just it affects everyone at all times, and so that's why I distinguish between the two. That's why I don't call the Doom and Gloom an AoE, because while it is an area that has an effect, it's not a specific area. It actually affects everything, everywhere. So I call that a global. Whereas the attacks and the heals I call AoEs. Next question from KidFire11. I have a question. Why isn't your PvP videos up to date? Why is it always around July? Thanks for sharing. Well, it takes a lot of time with the matches, and usually usually I have time on the weekends to edit or upload a video. But the catch is, I'm PvPing at those times. Sometimes even into the late night with the team, and so my only times to really convert and edit and put together a video is really on the weekdays or maybe on Sunday. So it takes a lot of time, and sometimes we have 4 to 5 matches a night. And the time it takes to process a video is, you have to you have to convert the video, which might take 30 minutes for a 20-minute match. Set up the battle roster, change all the names around, add the music in, make sure there's some variety, that it's not repeated too many times. Watch the video itself again so I get an idea of what's going on here, so I can write up the synopsis for the description, process that into a movie, which might take another hour for a half-hour battle. So you can imagine how long it takes to get those 1-hour videos up or processed. I mean, probably like 2 or 3 hours. And then takes more time to upload it to YouTube, which can take from 45 minutes to 5 hours. Usually the 5-hour ones to upload are the hour-long matches that we have, which technically, when not sped up by my movie maker, it lasts around 3 to 4 hours long. So it does take a lot of time, and it is uploaded slowly, but we do try to upload every match so you can sort of see where we've progressed and what we've done before, and show how our strategies, cards, and pets, and how we, as players, as teammates, have evolved over time. It's kind of a little nice documentary for us as well, to help us recollect some memories that we like to have. And so that's why that's why right now it's already December, but I'm still trying to upload July videos. The good news is there have been some breaks that have been like weeks long, whether it's 7 days to 14 days long, that we didn't touch PvP. So we'll be able to skip sometimes half a month at a time. But yeah, we try to get every video out there because I think every match is important for a team's development. And so once we get to the TPC 2.0 videos, though, that's going to take a little bit longer to upload, because we are going to add some commentary to it, and I think we might do group commentary, so you hear more than one person kind of describing the battle at a time, and that might take a few days to upload and whatnot, but that's technology for you today. I'm pretty sure in about 20 to 50 years from now we can do all this within a few minutes, but unfortunately this is what we have to work with right now. So thanks for your interest, though. and in TPC itself. Alright, next question from Special Skills 124. How do you run and type at the same time? I did it like 5 times, but I don't know what button to press. Well, there's a lot of ways to set your character to auto run, which is what I've done. And you can find that, you just Google up Autorun Wizard101. I'm sure there are a lot of different ways. My favorite way, though, that I use very often is to use directional keys and shift. So what I do is I hold my directional key, whichever way I want to move first. I hold that down, and then I hold shift. Make sure both keys are pressed. And once you have shift pressed down, let go of your directional keys. Don't touch any of them, but keep your hand on shift, obviously. And then you'll see your character auto move. Then release shift, of course, and that's how you auto run. That's one of the ways you auto run. There's some other ways where you just have to, I think, insert or one key. I think numlock also is an auto run, but don't quote me on that. You're gonna have to research that a little bit, but hopefully that helps there. And last but not least, Living One Hell of a Life asks, how come you never communicate with your partners during a 4v4? Do all of you just naturally know what to do or something? Well, we're always communicating, actually. We all are adults, and so we do have a trust factor between us. We do have discretion, and so we've shared together our communication actually on a voice server. That way, so some of us can get up and take care of real life. Some have kids, some have to do some other things during the battle animations, and PvP at the same time. And sometimes it's to help minimize the delay between planning. So when it takes you a few seconds to type out, I'm gonna Blizzard or whatever, a few milliseconds just to explain what you're gonna do, and or if you need to change up your strategies. That's one way that we do communicate, and sometimes we do actually understand what needs to be done in certain battles. Certain patterns kind of reoccur over time. And so some of the other teammates and I just don't need communication at all in some cases. We just pick our cards and we look at the screen and say, okay, that person's going to play this. Well, I'm going to end up playing this. That's typically how most of us kind of started out. And I assure you that some videos in the that we'll be uploading later will actually have us typing, because the lag's heavy on one side, or someone has some a storm going on, or weather, whatever it is, we end up resorting to text chat. So you'll be seeing how we communicate there too, and it's really fast. We type fast, and we plan out things, and we know patterns, acronyms, abbreviations, etc. So that's that. So anyways, thanks guys again for the questions. If you have any, feel free to send through the inbox or write a comment down here. Maybe some other people can help out too. And hopefully all the answers that I've provided here is, hopefully that's helped. And if not, you can always do some extra research, of course, on Google, or you can check out the blog itself over at kevinbattleblood.petgnome.com. I said from the last video that there would be some tools, some pet tools videos to be released. I still have to work on that. It's been pretty busy ever since Thanksgiving, so I haven't even been able to get to that, but I will, I promise. So hope you guys have a great week. Again, I'll be collecting questions over time and sorting them out, and eventually sharing it with you all whenever I can get that ready. So I will be working on the armor piercing video to kind of give you an extra visuals on those. So again, keep checking up, subscribe if you like this, and that video should be coming up pretty shortly. So thanks again for tuning in. Kevin Battleblood signing out. See you in the spiral. Peace.